Have you ever thought to yourself, what if Negan was Canadian? I think this is what he would look like. But more importantly, we're here to build a table in my barn that we've been renovating for the last couple months, and we're going to use a bunch of wood that we cut ourselves using a chainsaw and the old Alaskan sawmill. We're going to be doing this so we can fit that planer over my shoulder there, and we want it to have a nice little indent, a little spot where the planer or a table saw can drop into, and we can use the table as a wider surface for working on it. Or if we're not working with the planer or the table saw, we want to be able to cover it up and just have a nice solid work table. So let's get a crackin'.
What does that thing got to sit on to be used?
Ooh la la.
Now that we have our planer unboxed and pretty much all set up, I'm really happy and impressed, just satisfied with so far the quality of the planer. We've got some base measurements taken, quite literally, of the base of it. And so I've decided to go with a 2x4 top of this planing table workbench. And I decided about 39 inches is a great height for that table. And I came to the decision of that 39 inches being the perfect height from, let's say, just taking a consensus around the area. Now for that 39 inches, we have to calculate the width of the top of the table when we're cutting the legs out, because I want to do something a little special and it's going to require us to make a thicker tabletop. I want to have a cutout where we can lift away and drop the planer into it so that it is level with the tabletop, so the tabletop acts as an extension of the planer, so that we're not just using the extra 8 or so inches that come with the little wings on it, but we'll have a couple feet on each end, so when I'm out here, you know, planing some of the wood that we cut ourselves, it will be a little bit easier to do it myself, having a couple extra feet on both sides just to support it going in and coming out. So I'm going to measure the height of the two boards. The nice board will go on top, and we've got a nice thicker plywood that we've just got sitting in the barn here that'll go below it. I'm going to laminate the two together after cutting out a perfect space so that there'll be a nice ledge to sit on, blah blah blah. You can just watch me do it. Let's start cutting those legs out. Now, let's cut this one. Well, that wasn't too hard to cut, was it? After checking the legs side by side, I noticed there's about 1/8 of an inch of discrepancy, which isn't a whole lot, and given we're not working on a super flat dirt floor here, but I still wanted to line them all up, and I just took the saw, went by real slow, and just evened out that 1/8 inch discrepancy. Now they're all measuring within just a 1/16 from end to end. Nothing we're gonna notice overall. I'm measuring out the two 2x4 sections, the one that will go under the top laminate and the one that will make the bottom shelf of the table. Now, I'm a big fan of using chalk line to measure stuff out. You've seen me use it in some of my Jeep videos, automotive things, just being able to trace a even, exact line across a larger area just by a single person without, you know, fancier technology like them lasers people got. Now, to use the chalk line single-handedly, I like to use just a single nail on the measurement that I have quadruple checked beforehand of nailing that nail in under that line, and then you can hook the chalk line on the opposite side that you are so that you can have a nice tight taut line before you snap it into place. We did not need to actually cut these boards out to size to measure or to get the measurement for what the thickness of the top plane would be before we cut the legs out, but I wanted to, so why not? And now we've got them together, and this is pretty much what the top of our table will look like. It will be very sturdy. I can't imagine it'll be breaking up anytime soon, but we're looking at 1.25 inches. So out of that 39, our legs are going to be 37 3/4 tall. I wanted to be really sure that we were putting together a square base, because if we got a little curled down on the bottom here, then it's going to throw the whole thing off, and we want to be building all these projects and stuff we'll be doing in the future on a solid, flat, squared off thing. You don't want it wibbly wobbly to one side or the other. Even though, like I've said, we're working on dirt floor here, I'm doing the best I can to just level everything out. One of the things I'm doing is on the concrete pad that we do have, I slid one of the 4x8s under where we're putting everything together, and that just kind of helped level the whole thing out. And now that I've got both of the end pieces joined together in the center, I'm going to cut out the edges, just the corners, and I'm sure there is a better looking way you could do this, where you use a jigsaw and you cut out the 4x4 perfectly sizing so that the edge of the panel slides down perfectly around it as well, and you don't have little bits of 2x4 shown from the bottom. But here's the thing, this is a work table, and it's not going in the White House, it's not the Resolute desk, it is the SomeGuy's outside sitting on horse manure desk. And now that we have the top of the bottom shelf bolted down, this thing is feeling really secure, really firm, and just measuring up that we're squared up at top. Everything is 21 inches 4x4 to 4x4 and just 45-45, or just double measured. So we've got everything squared up, and so I'm really happy. And so the next stage, what we're going to be doing is using the same end pieces for the 2 feet across, just these nice scrap cuts you pick up from Lowe's for dirt cheap, which, I mean, dirt cheap for wood these days. But to add a little bit of spice and to save a couple of dollars, and since we do it and have it anyway, we're going to use what we mostly just use for show pieces, benches, seats, whatever. We're going to use some of this lumber that we cut ourselves, and I'm going to keep the live edge on it, so we're going to cut it right down the center into a 2x4 for the most. It's about 1.5 inches thick. Maybe we'll run it through the planer just for fun to level it out, but it doesn't. This part doesn't need to be level. All we need is a straight cut on the center line, and that flat will go to the top, and we're going to keep a live edge kind of curved down to the bottom, just to kind of, bring in a bit of our own spice. We've got it pretty good, but that's where that planer and this whole table comes in, that it will make it go from pretty good to really good, to the stuff you actually are going to go, oh damn, that's a nice bench. That's a nice piece of wood right there. That's real flat. Alright, we pretty much have this thing finished, and it is actually turning out really well. We have a cross section of exactly 2 feet and a cross section of exactly 4 feet. And I gotta be honest, getting a lot better at this than I used to be. But we still have a couple of finicky things that might go wrong or might go right, so I wanted to be sure everything lined up perfectly. The space in here is 20 inches and 3/4 between these two long pieces of wood. The size of the Dewalt DW735 planer that we have is 20 and 3/8. So we got this thing, I mean, in a hair's margin. So it will fit in here perfectly. Perfectly. And the fun thing is, so will our table saw. Not table saw. So will our circular saw, the thing that goes like that. Rotary saw. What is that thing called? Whatever it's called, it also fits in the space. Alright, it's tomorrow, or today. Today is today, yesterday was tomorrow. Hi, doggy. Are you here to say hello to the YouTubes? Now, I think we're going to take these two panels, and we're going to figure out the exact size of that Dewalt planer, and then we're going to cut this bottom panel about 1 inch or 2 shorter. Then we're going to cut this top panel, so that when they lift out and come out, the top panel and, the removable panel will then sit back in and be supported not just here, but also across the table by that ledge. And so once we have those cut out and to size, I will glue down the top panel to the bottom panel, and then the two parts that aren't going to be removable can get screwed into the table, and the part that is removable won't be screwed into the table. Next, we're going to work on the substructure, the support. That Dewalt planer is about 90 pounds. So we're going to be using some just 2x4 hangers. It should be roughly 2 5/8 inches below where the lip of the feed tray on the planer is. I think I got that measurement just right. So we're going to have to figure out all that leveling. And I'm going to be showing you me doing it as I'm talking about it right now. And it'll seem like I had such a brilliant plan. And it'll all be done like this. Test install of planer number 1. Remember, this is 92 pounds. Lines up really well in the front. Now let's just hope it doesn't collapse out of there. Alright, so it's about a 1/4 inch, so I'll measure that, but a 1/4 inch low in the back. So I'm going to shim this rear cross member board, whatever you want to call it, whatever distance I think that is, and hopefully we can raise it up and level it out with this upper board here. Good news, bad news. I took the planer off, and before I started trying to shim anything, I wanted to see how the miter saw held, or not held. I knew it's a fifth the weight, but I wanted to see how it fit into everything. Good news is it fits really well. Bad news is shimming it for the planer is going to make this fit a little less well, because we're going to have to lift that side up. And there is, a 1/16, I don't know how much of a difference between the height on these two edges. Probably just how I hung the 2x4s. Just didn't get it perfect. Once again, I'm just a random guy. I'm not a professional. So I'm actually very happy with just having that, between an 1/8 and a 1/16 of an inch in discrepancy. Very happy with that. But we're going to have to kind of cattywampus how this will work, because that planer is a more important tool to have totally flat. I can't have the edge of the planer come out and not be above this. That just won't work. I absolutely can use this with it being a little bit higher than its surrounding area, than surrounding tabletop. So yeah, that's the decision I make. This is the sacrificial lamb. I think it's still going to be super helpful to have this table to use this thing with, but I think getting the planer zeroed in is going to be a lot more important to the stuff we'll be able to produce. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I would like to demonstrate to you that through the ability of fine tuning, we were able to make this planer plain flat. Now, that's not just a pun. It's actually flat. And I gotta say, I'm super happy it doesn't catch on the lip. And especially, you can't trust me. It looks like I may have lifted it up there. But when we throw it through, it just goes right over the ledge. Right over. 'Cause it's flat! We have done it! Yeah! Whatever. I'm super pumped about it. So, I'm gonna do some finishing stuff. I don't think I'm gonna paint it for now. I kinda like the raw wood. But who knows, maybe in the future. So, let's hit a sanding montage! The glove has been thrown down. Wait, I think that metaphor is for starting something, because we just finished something. This table is donezo, and I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. It is definitely the first of its magnitude, something that I've done like this. You know, obviously we have workbenches in the shed, but those benches weren't large enough to fit this, or an area that would be capable of actually running these 8-foot boards through it. So I wanted something that we had out in the barn here, which we've been renovating the last half year, turning it from what used to be, you know, horse stalls and manure holder into somewhere we can actually season the wood we've been cutting. This planer is going to help us turn that lumber into actual usable, that wood into actual usable lumber. And I think the only fair way to show you guys the merit of this table is to end the video by sending a couple of those pieces of cut wood through here, turning it into some nice flat lumber. And maybe afterwards we'll switch this Dewalt out for the miter saw down below. Boom, Dewalt's up here, miter saw. We can cut that lumber into something. I'm thinking maybe my bathroom needs a new mirror update. Video coming soon on that. Wow, you are pretty. Pretty. Oh, hi. I was saying the cabinet's pretty. The cabinet's pretty, not me. I wasn't saying I'm pretty. But I am pretty satisfied with how the cabinet turned out.